earlier, and things that we find ourselves now so grateful for. We'll know how to readjust our priorities so we can invest in, like, family time and stuff like that. But even before that, I think my friend Sherry Mandel put it very. I think she used the right words. She said, "This is not wasted time. This is holy time." And I think the way we relate to the time now as not time to kill until we can get back to, but almost sacred time that we're gonna yearn for when we're back to normal. And whatever we can do with now, the way we look into our personalities and say, to what extent do I need control of everything? To what extent can I let the chaotic situation be accepted in humility? All that, it's a very interesting process, inward and family and society. So it really depends on what we do now and what's going to stay with us later.
Well, in your house, how many people are staying at home together? How many are there?
So okay, so I'm a mother of 7. One of them is Naftali, so he's watching from elsewhere, and for most of the time, all 8 of us were together. And now for Yemei Zikaron Atzmaut, my daughter went back to her Shirut Leumi to spend some time with the people that she works with, but most of the time we're 8.
In the house the whole time, and what do you do during the day? Are you teaching all of your classes? How young is your youngest?
My youngest is 9, and everybody's Zooming. The ones in university are Zooming, the ones in high school are Zooming, the ones in elementary schooling are constantly everybody. So, and my husband some of the time was working from home, some of the time was working at work. So it's trying to run everybody's school. It's like everybody but you. You're trying to run the schooling from home and do your own job. And most of our teaching went into Zoom mode. Some of it, I don't know how it is in America, but in Israel, many workplaces sent their workers to, we call it chalat, chufsha lelo tashlum, a leave of absence.
Furlough.
So in Chicago too?
Yeah, it's called they've furloughed people, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. So so some of my workplaces did that and said, but we expect you to continue working. And some were officially off, but there are a million other things. The truth is, it was beautiful because being in the field of Torah, you become aware of so many initiatives that were meant to keep people learning and busy and spirits up, and around Pesach and around Yom HaZikaron, around Yom HaAtzmaut. And then as a teacher, you find yourself cooperating with a million of those. So I spend a lot of time in front of the Zoom, which doesn't make me any more technologically sufficient.
No, but you're doing very well. The sharing of screens that I saw how you did before was also excellent. Is there a shiur that you have been giving multiple times trying to build people up, trying to encourage people, or is it just the regular kinds of things?
Well, it has been a time of holidays. So last was around Pesach and Yom HaShoah, and the truth is there was a motive that came up from Pesach to Yom HaShoah to Yom HaZikaron to Yom HaAtzmaut, and that has to do with memory and the whole role of Zikaron in Jewish identity. First as Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim, and then what do we do with the memory of the Holocaust, and then Yom HaZikaron, and then how do you experience Yom HaAtzmaut within all of this? And it was interesting to notice that actually there's a motive that's been going through what does memory mean to us, and how it is. I think my biggest teacher in that field is Avraham Infeld, who said Jews don't have a history; they have a memory. And it's more about not having something on the shelf that you choose to open or not, but an identity, a story that you walk with, that changes all the time, that's dynamic, that means different things every year. and how you actually put it into practice. Like Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim is not only sitting in Leila Seder and learning the story, it's also then, bettering your society and remembering the Gilde, Tomba, and very similarly, the relationship between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, all that. It was very interesting to see that these are 4 different dates in the calendar, and actually there's a motive that goes through them.
So when you're speaking with people, especially people in Chutz La'aretz, what's the memory of Yom HaAtzmaut that people need to keep in mind?
Interesting. For me, it's first of all, it's that it's not my holiday as a person carrying an Israeli passport. It's the Independence Day for any Jew around the world. I think even small things like a person checks where they are on the Corona chart, but they immediately also check and how is Israel doing. And when thank God Hashem has been with us and we're doing Baruch Hashem well, so we're proud of what the Jewish state in Eretz Yisrael has done, but also because it's a big deal. I mean, maybe because of the nature of Jewish communities, they're warm, they're hugging, they're close. Some of the worst places in the world, Jews have suffered a lot during this plague, and many losses. And I think no matter the outer reality, Jews have always been able to carry within them an inner horizon, also something that has nothing to do with the now and here. And today's inner horizon includes a sovereign Jewish state out there, standing with you, praying for you, keeping your back. Before Corona, we were very concerned about anti-Semitism. Yeah, now Baruch Hashem, the whole world is standing together, in this specific fight. But the biggest deal is it's not mine; it's ours. It's not people living in Tel Aviv, Yerushalayim. It's people living in Chicago and in Kathmandu.
I'm a little bit older than you are, so I remember the 6-Day War, which you can't remember because you were afterwards. But I remember certain, cataclysmic or extraordinary events that brought everybody together. I remember in Tebbe, I remember the 6-Day War, Yom Kippur War. I was in high school and we ran out and we were collecting and doing everything we could possibly do in Chutz La'aretz. Now with the younger generation, with the ones I teach and the ones you teach, they don't have that sense of, or do they? I don't always feel that they have that sense of those moments that create the memory.
So I happened, I over the last almost 6 years, I spoke to many people from diaspora, and when they describe standing together, reform, conservative, reconstructionist, orthodox, ultra, Hasidim, whatever, when the boys were kidnapped, and yes, I have a personal connection, they said the elders of the community don't remember anything like this, and for decades. And then they said, well, maybe in the 6-Day War, then we stood together. So it seems like, I wish it wouldn't be in tragedy, but the ability is not lost. And from time to time, there's something that shakes our world and brings us together, and we pray together, and we hope together, and we feel like family. It's true that the big secret is how do we take this to our everyday life? How do, both the unity itself, but the connection to Eretz Yisrael, the understanding that nothing that happens here is foreign to any Jew around the world, and vice versa too. Nothing that happens to any Jew around the world should be foreign to me.
Today again, where Yom HaAtzmaut is the message of Tzionut today, the sense of Achdut, of world Jewry. Rabbanit gave a sikha, and it was later written about how he would imagine that Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of Israel, would have looked differently at the way the state looks today. And he questioned some of the terms we would use sometimes, like Reshit Smichat Gulatenu, that maybe it's not, Rabbi J.J. Schachter always used to say, we always hedge our bet in the Tefillah Shalom Amdina. We don't say it's the Gula. We don't say it's the Reshit Gula. We say it's the Reshit Smichat Gula, just the beginning of the blossoming of what will be an ultimate redemption. Is this the same? What is the Zionist dream of today? How are we bringing people together?
Quoting my father, when he's a student, he got his smicha from Rabbi Yoshe Ber, and it's just interesting, actually. Recently I had to tell someone where he's from and a little bit about him, and they said, well, he was born in Austria, then they escaped to Switzerland, then to France, then to England, and the Blitz, then eventually to New York. Then he spent 10 years.
And you're broken. You're not coming through again.
Right, and he came. And the reason I'm saying all of this is I was saying to myself, oh, so actually he's a refugee. And the truth is, it depends what you do with your life story. You can tell yourself, I'm a refugee, and now we'll raise here 4 generations of refugees and never let them grow out of the refugee status and make that that's their story. But his Jewish mother, wherever they stayed for 2 months, pushed him to learn and to school and to learn and to school. And that's the Jewish version of being a refugee. So that's just, if I mention him. But when we say, and he's definitely very, very Zionistic and coming here in the 50s and all. But when we say Rashit Tzmichat Geulatenu, so he says Halevai. Now, Halevai doesn't mean he's kofar in this idea of the religious Zionism. On the contrary, it means none of this is in our pocket. None of this is already, could never be spoiled. No one should feel that, oh, the work has done. We have an independent state, and now it's either it's going to stay this way, which is not good enough, or it's so when we say, as you quoted Rabbi Schachter, Rashid can't deny things that are Chasdei Hashem from a different caliber. Is it? Not necessarily. Now, the question, what would Rav Kook say, is, it's a popular question for the Tzibur Dati Leumi in Israel. And you can't ask such questions. It was a different time, a different stage. And yes, there might have been something naive about the way Rav Kook described, but because the people involved were naive. Yes, he dealt with communists and socialists, and they were very secular, but they were deeply ideological. And the challenges of Western culture Israel, liberal culture Israel today, are not exactly that. It's more about individualism and things that challenge all of us as religious people, as religious Zionists. So we have different challenges, and it's still, finding the way to live in a modern reality, and being active in all walks of life, in science and politics, in media, in army, in education, in Torah. And combining that with a sovereign life in Eretz Yisrael, I think that ideal didn't change. It's just a lot of work, and finding connections to secular society in Israel. It has its challenges. We're building here something together. It's not like anybody's going anywhere else.
And in that connection with the secular society, you're an interesting person. You're able to bridge much of that because of your media personality as well. Do you find as we hear that there is a move towards tradition in Israel today?
Well, there are many things going on at once. One thing is true. I somehow, through the whole ordeal, kind of it created a shortcut into people's heart. And what it mostly exposed is that beyond cynicism and diversity and machloket and politics, there's a true yearning to know each other, to stand together, to feel connected. One of the secret blessings of Corona days now, at first there was, when it was very clear that there's going to be an outbreak in Haredi society, because it took them longer to catch on. And then for a few days, there were some nasty remarks about them. People, like all the anti-Semitic Jews have inside them, came out towards Haredi society. But now there've been a multitude of things connecting. The army was the one bringing food day after day to Haredi cities in quarantine. Today there was airplanes from the Air Force flying over the Ma'aneh Yeshua hospital, and you saw all this medical staff, who's many of them are Haredi, like the nurses and the medical assistants, whatever. They were all standing, saluting the planes of the IDF. A lot of the connections there have become. You saw on Yom HaShoah, people from Agav, from the Army Police Force, kind of standing on the Tzfira Yom HaZikaron, on the siren, and saluting to a Haredi old lady who's a Holocaust survivor. These things happen on a daily basis, and it seems like it churned things around. It nistarot darkei Hashem. In the end, it will end up to be a stronger connection between Haredi society and general society. So there's that. And there are other processes that have been going on for 15 years. A larger space for a Sephardi tradition in media and music. Piyut has become a genre that you can hear on Galei Tzahal, on the general media. A lot of it's not like Haaretz, the very left-wing paper, enjoys any of this, but the fact that they feel they need to speak so strongly against it gives you the feeling that they feel threatened, because they're surrounded by so much new openness to tradition and to things that people were keeping silent for 2-3 generations.
Well, our time is coming to a close, but if one thing you wanted us in Chicago to think about on this Yom Ha'atzmaut, what would be the one thing?
Oh. Didn't prepare for this. Okay, I'll say one on the general level and one on the personal level. As far as and a lot of this we said already, but maybe to re-emphasize on what Medinat Israel means to us today, and what it means to Jews in the diaspora. I still think what Rav Lichtenstein, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, said, that if you want to be a player, or a spectator, the field is here in Eretz Israel. And many Jews in Galut are putting themselves a little bit, no offense, a little bit in the position of the spectator, because I hope, Bezrat Hashem, the main ball game is going to happen here. But there is very strong Jewish life, the Chutz La'aretz, and nobody argues about that. But we should from both sides feel the strong, unbreakable connection and be there for each other. Whether the trouble is Corona or anti-Semitism, and whether the trouble is, the things we go through here in Eretz Yisrael. You're never alone, and you should never feel that you don't have a backing of a whole nation, and Baruch Hashem today a whole state. That's one thing. And about this Corona time, it's about the balance between being able to let go of control, and with human humility about we can't control everything, and finding small patches of controllable things where my thoughts are, where my time is spent, small challenges I take upon myself, small challenges in the family, because the bigger picture is out of our control at the moment. And keeping these patches of sanity and control, it's a balancing game.
Rabbanit Frankel, I want to thank you on behalf of our community for this half hour. It was wonderful schmoozing. It was great learning from you. As I've said, when you were offline for a few moments, I told everyone else that this is just a teaser of what we hope to have when you'll be able to join us in person, hopefully soon, hopefully next year. We're on schedule. The tickets are already purchased. We just have to now move them over to the right date. Chag Sameach.
Yes. When planes will be flying again.
Yes, when planes will be flying again, we have the seats. We just have to figure out what dates those are. Chag Sameach. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye. Before we end today, though, I would like to remind everyone that we will be having next week, hopefully without any of the technical difficulties, a visit again with our former assistant rabbi, Rabbi Dov Lerner. Beginning next week, the presentations will be at 12 noon. The Rabbi Lerner will be next week. The week afterwards will be Rabbi Dr. David Pelkovitz, followed by Rabbi Danny Kroll. And on May 27th, to finish off the month, will be with Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg of Boca Raton, Florida. I thank you for having joined us today. I'm sorry that the conversation was cut short, but I do thank Rabbanit Racheli Frankel for joining us even for that brief amount of time. And for the members who are with us from KINS, next year she'll be joining us before Yom Ha'atzmaut as a scholar in residence. You see the extraordinary personality of this wonderful Torah educator, and she should continue to teach Torah throughout the world for many years to come. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful Yom Ha'atzmaut.